Okay, now we're going to finish this wall off by tuck pointing it. And we need what is called a slick and a hawk. The latest series coming up is the ergonomics of using a hawk. If you're tuck pointing an entire building all day long and you're in this unnatural grip versus your natural lay of your hand is like this, you're going to feel it. But that's a later series. So we need to have a slick that's the width or smaller. Smaller is the key than the joint we're trying to press mortar into. So this slick right here would be too big. Monster over here, duck bills, etc. are too big. So we're looking for a slick that's just a little narrower than our mortar joint. There we go. But I don't want to be trying to push it in with this one at my head joint. So I always keep one slick between my fingers and then the other slick that I'm actively using in my hand so I can switch back and forth readily. Lock up my mortar, put a little bit on my hawk, and if you're hogging it in, you got a heavy hawk, it's all going to your elbow. Your elbow is probably what's going to be the worst at the end of the day. If this was aged lime putty or aged lime work, if this was a day, best 48 hours old, it would stick to my slick all day long, and then I could put it where I want it. But this is fresh. This is only maybe 2 hours old right now. So what I'll do is leave my hawk up against the wall and overfill my joint. I don't want to make this look like it's a brand new wall, because it's not. Now here I want to push it in to the mortar joint, so I need a very thin slick. So I can push it into the joint because we didn't put mortar in there in the first place. The narrower the joint, the harder it is to get the mortar in. There's a lot of gauged brickwork projects that when they laid it, so they could lay things very, very smooth, gauged brick being a very, very square brick. And so the mortar joint is very, very thin and it looks very rich or expensive. And what they do is they just put mortar on both sides and press the brick into it so the center was hollow. So I'm overfilling. And now this brick, we have not covered the head of the brick, so I'll tap it in using the side of my slick to get it all the way down and across. I don't need an air draft system if there's air here, here, and here on a windy day or a high vacuum day, because we're running our air conditioner, our laundry system, and our washer and dryer especially at the same time, where I'm actually sucking air into my building. So I don't need that cold air coming through that joint. Okay, so now it's filled. I'm going to scrape the excess off. By the way, if I leave the top a little low, because it's at the end of the day, and there's a little concave joint in there, it's not a problem. It adds a little more keying action to it. We don't need it, but it just does. Okay, so I've used the right slick. I'm pushing it into the joint. If my slick is too wide, I can't push it anywhere. One of the newest developments that are being looked at in the science of trying to replicate what's here is using wood slicks, whether we're laminating wood to our slick or we're just using a stick to do it. When we're doing chinking work, our finished process within chinking is with a wood dowel, or what they would have used is a wood stick to get that finish in the aggregate exposed and not over compressives. So this is dried out enough here, but not here, that I should start dry brushing. Now dry brushing compacts, pushes it up against the mating surface, and exposes the aggregate. We can make our own by taking a chip brush, not a nylon brush, a natural bristle brush, and cutting it short. And then we pack our joints in. If I can get any moisture on my hand, it's too early, I'm going to smear it up the rest of the brick face. This is not the style, this is to clean up my tools with. It's a very stiffer bristled brush that is almost going straight in. It has a slight angle, which is good. So when I compact, I expose my aggregate and I'm compressing it. But I'm trying to follow this profile, not trying to push it in and scrape it back. If it was on the outside of a building, we'd be doing it a little bit different because that mortar joint is weathered. So if it was on the outside of the building, we do a slight cut back, top and bottom, and then compact, because on the outside it weathers. In the inside here, the plaster was scraped off, and this is what we're seeing. So we're seeing a very flush joint. So this can be referred to as tuck pointing, but no two tuck pointings are the same. This is our favorite brush. We can only get them out of Europe at this time. We actually met with a brush manufacturer and said, boy, we're paying $35 a piece for these things. Can we get them cheaper from you guys? And, oh yeah, that'd be simple to make. How many would you buy at a time? How many gross would you buy at a time? Oh, per mason, 3. Nah, we can't make those for you because there's not enough money into them. But over in Europe, they're still doing it the way we need it, and they call it a churn brush. Now when we hit it, it pushes but doesn't go straight in. That's why this has to be a softer bristle brush. So now as we hit it, we really start exposing the aggregates. And if this is tuck pointing on the outside, you really need to see those aggregates, because in this case, this building has been sitting here for 113 years. It's been weathered, and we don't weather it with acid necessarily, but we could follow up with an acid etch. Now you see I've got my mortar a little high. Well, I guess that's a chip. But that's how we finish this off. I'll have to come back on this because my hand is getting wet, and I'm going to smear the crap out of where I put these head joints in, where I did my tuck pointing. If I wait too long, I will not be able to etch the first stuff I did. So you want to do a series, do your head joints, and then within 8 to 10 hours, you want to do your cleaning. We worked with an architect on the other side of the state, and it was amazing of what he wanted us to do. It was almost ridiculous. But so we used let's call it a nylon abrasive wheel on a drill motor, and we exposed the aggregate that way, and it met his needs. He wanted no acid etching whatsoever, which is going to brown it a little bit. And that's what we did to clean up the mortar to make it look like it's been there forever. And in that case, this is a building from the 1890s that we were doing it on.